brings us to Marcus and Paige Blanchard. They've been inactive for, 2 years now. But Cooper, you have an update, I think you mentioned.
I do. So you know how I've been reaching out to Marcus for months now with no response? Well, this week they finally returned my call. Yeah, and they've agreed to a visit.
All right, that's great.
That's great.
That is great news. Have you thought about who you'd like to take?
You know, Marcus and Paige are hurting right now. And I really think it would help for them to talk with someone who's been there. I'd like to take Scott.
What do you say, Scott?
I guess if the body agrees, I'd be happy to help.
Now, of course, we'll be praying for Jehovah's blessing for you both as you make that call. Let's move to the next point then, which is our CO visit in just over a month.
That's great. Marcus said it was all right to visit.
Here's what I'm thinking. So we could share Isaiah chapter 40, verse 11, and maybe share some points from this June 2020 study article. What do you think?
You know, I'd really like to share these references and these verses with Marcus and Paige. But most of all, I'd really like to just listen to them and see how they're doing.
Yeah, you're right.
You know, we need to understand where they're at and how they got there.
Hey, do you mind if I ask? I know it's been years, but how did you get there?
Oh, it's confession time for Scott. So we're going to learn all about the skeletons in Scott's closet. So this, again, is a series of dramatizations that are being shown to elders and ministerial servants at this year's Kingdom Ministry School. And we begin by learning about this couple, Marcus and Paige, who need help because they've not been attending meetings or going on the ministry for 2 years. And the ideal person who is selected by an elder named Cooper to accompany him in helping this couple is Scott, because it turns out Scott has been through a similar experience of drifting away from the organization. But I found it interesting when they were talking about Marcus and Paige, the coordinator of the body of elders. And bear in mind, let's just kind of flag this right from the get-go. This is not material that you're supposed to be seeing. This is leaked material. This is only intended for elders and ministerial servants to watch. So you are not supposed to be watching this right now. It's because of insiders within the organization leaking this material out very courageously that we're able to review this material to begin with. But it's actually a very interesting insight into the culture of Jehovah's Witnesses and the expectations that are placed upon them. And you see in the elders meeting an elder named Cooper talk about how he's been trying for months to reach out to this couple, Marcus and Paige.
So you know how I've been reaching out to Marcus for months now with no response?
So for months, he's been, messaging them, asking them if they're okay, inviting them to have a shepherding visit, have a conversation. And that immediately tells you that when you are one of Jehovah's Witnesses, it's not okay to just check out for a while. You know, you can't just slip off the radar for a couple of years without running into this issue of elders essentially hunting you down and making you their priority. Because they'll want to know, why are you not attending meetings anymore? So immediately we're learning that worship as a Jehovah's Witness isn't just something that's very personal and intimate. It's something that other people involve themselves in. And if you stop attending meetings and stop preaching for any prolonged period, the elders are going to notice and they're going to effectively hunt you down.
Well, it definitely didn't happen overnight. Tina and I were pioneering together. But then our life just got complicated. Good. You need a minute.
Yeah.
drifted away from what was most important.
I guess you won't be able to.
I can't make it tonight.
Okay.
Here we are. It wasn't that I left Jehovah. I just was not much of a spiritual head.
Our theme scripture for this lesson is taken from Colossians 3:14. Clothe yourselves with love, for it is a perfect bond of union.
Even though I wasn't doing anything wrong.
Yes.
Before I knew it, years had gone by. Hey,
Oh, hi. How'd it go today?
went all right. That was a meeting.
Good. Yeah, Angela invited some sisters over, so I'm gonna go change.
Okay, sounds good. I drifted away from what was most important, and I felt powerless to stop it.
So what we're seeing at this point is the story of Scott's downfall as a Jehovah's Witness, as a family head, and then his redemption. And it's key to note that he's not describing being disfellowshipped. He makes it clear that he's not left Jehovah, as they would put it. He's not done anything that would constitute a sin. He's very much still, in the eyes of the congregation, a Jehovah's Witness. His only crime is that he's, for a quite prolonged period, stopped being as zealous as a Jehovah's Witness. He's no longer fulfilling his perceived duties as a spiritual head. In other words, leading his wife in worship. He's not going on the ministry, and he's not going to meetings. And we see there some reasons why this has happened. We see that he is apparently caring for a sick relative, possibly a parent. We see that he's very consumed with his work. There's evidently some link or some insinuation that there are financial difficulties. So all of these things are the reason, or to blame for, Scott straying from the expectations that are placed upon him. What's not considered is that perhaps he just doesn't believe, or perhaps his basis for faith is fundamentally flawed, which I think is the reason in the majority of cases for witnesses to fall away. I mean, if the theology itself is broken and doesn't make sense, then even if you want to believe it, or even if part of you believes it, at some point it's going to just become exhausting to be on this hamster wheel of continually being busy in the organization and never quite doing enough. Because no matter whether you are a ministerial servant, an elder, a pioneer, a circuit overseer, in the organization there's always something more that you could potentially be doing. And I think for a lot of people, that alone is a reason to just say, you know what, I've had enough of this for a while. I'm going to take some time out. But that's not really an option. And I found it very, very telling the way this dramatization is right from the get-go using repetition to drill home a message. We heard there Scott twice say, I drifted away from what was most important.
I drifted away from what was most important. I drifted away from what was most important, and I felt powerless to stop it.
This is interesting. It's a tried and trusted manipulation technique. If you want to really drill home a message, you use repetition. And that's what they're doing here. They are repeating this idea that life as a Jehovah's Witness and conforming to all of the rituals and all of the expectations, and you must be in a certain place at a certain time to show how spiritual you are, all of that is the most important thing in your life. Not your marriage, not your kids, not looking after those who are dependent upon you. Your worship of Jehovah is the most important thing in your life. And Scott is here confessing as to the reasons why he fell away and what it was that eventually brought him back.